Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel, they were forced to serve Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and they were carried away from the hometown of Jerusalem. But once they was carried away, they was made to serve the king, and the king had a dream. He dreamed about a great mighty statue that he had, and it was a prophecy. Well, Daniel translated the prophecy, but then the king had this great idea to build this giant statue to make everybody worship this statue that he dreamed about. So as time passed, he built the statue, and he said Nebuchadnezzar spoke a different language. When he didn't speak English. But when he spoke, we couldn't understand him, so he'd have to have an interpreter. So that's what I'm going to do here today, is have an interpreter for Nebuchadnezzar. See, Nebuchadnezzar said, which meant, see this great statue I built? When it comes time to hear, after you hear the musicians and all the singers play, you bow down and worship the image. But Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, they knew it was against God's law to bow down and worship an image. It was one of the big 10 which you should obey. So they said, we ain't going to do that. And so when it come time and all the music instruments played and the whole kingdom and everybody bowed down, well, there was 3 Hebrew children that were standing up. And they didn't bow, and they stuck out like a sore thumb. And it was told the king, they came running to Nebuchadnezzar, and they said, hey, these guys which you took from Jerusalem, these Hebrew children which you've promoted, are now disobeying the commandments of the king. When it comes time to bow down to this great statue, they said, we won't bow. And when everybody bowed after the end of the music, they still stood. And the king was wroth, and the king said, which meant, bring those boys here, and I want to have a word with them. So they brought up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to King Nebuchadnezzar, and King Nebuchadnezzar explained to them how that he was going to fire up the furnace 7 times hotter. And they was going to throw them into the fire furnace if they did not bow to the great image which he built. Well, Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego looked at the king and said, I'm sorry, we're not going to bow. In fact, this is what the Bible says that they said. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve the gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So Nebuchadnezzar got real angry, and he says,
broken.
which meant throw them in the fire because they ain't going to obey me. So what they did, there was 2 big strong guys who'd been to war, and they fought in great battles. They opened up the doors, but the fiery furnace was so hot that when they opened up the doors, the heat came out of the furnace and killed those 2 guys, and they died right there on the spot. But the other men who had bound Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tossed them into the fire. And then when they tossed them in, King Nebuchadnezzar looked into the fire and said, there are 3 guys I threw in that fire, and lo and behold, I see 4. And the 4th looks like the Son of God. And so he said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out of that fire. And so they came out of the fire, and they didn't smell the smoke, neither the hair of the head was burned. And all that was burned, that got thrown in the fire with them, was the bonds which they had on them. God had protected them, kept them safe during the fire. Now this is a good lesson we can learn, that if we serve the Lord and do what is right, and if we keep His commandments and try to do the best we can to honor and glorify God, then through these trials and tribulations which we go through in this time, which we are in, God will protect us the same way He protected them and keep us from being burned up. You know, we should have the attitude of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which said, if not, be it known unto the king that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. That whether God chooses to deliver us during a trial or not deliver us during a trial, we should serve God anyway, because we have a better place to go to. Goodbye.